Council meeting for Monday, January 24th, 2011. And we'll start off. Ms. Harrison, could you give us an introduction of late items, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Add item 6C, delegations pertaining to agenda items. Mr. Fred Taylor, regarding DP 697, 20 Barsby Avenue. Add item 6D, delegations pertaining to agenda items. Mr. Bill McKay, regarding LED signs. Add item 8C, proclamations, Black History Month. Add item 12D, information-only items, Quarterway Bridge replacement, Bowen Road widening. Add item 17A, council appointments, appointments to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability.
Thank you. Could I have an adoption of the agenda, please?
Adopted the agenda
as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the minutes?
Move the minutes as circulated.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll move down into presentations and then delegations pertaining to agenda items. Are there delegations pertaining to the 2011-2015 financial plan? Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
My name is Taylor Way. I must comment on Council's Finance and Policy Committee meetings, especially the last one, and all the information before the Council. And it's too bad that wasn't for public viewing, all the excellent information from staff departments, etc. One of the questions I raised in the question period of that meeting was, after seeing I think it was $1 million advertising budget, was advertising. Why do we advertise with, say, news media that has a low circulation? So the following week, it's happening. And if you see, if we can go back one, if you can see, here's 2 ads this last week for a employment opportunity. One is in a news media of 35,000, the other is in a news media of 7,500. These happen to be 2 sister papers, so why duplicate and add a cost, especially for the one for 7,500. The next one is, which I've raised question with the staff, is for the by-election, and it's in 2 different papers. One 32,000 circulation, one for 7,500. To me, if you're, say, in an election time, etc., the wisest thing would be to get the best coverage would be for the one that has the largest coverage within the community. And I want to bring it before you as to, hopefully it'll get some consideration as to where we start this in looking at the, say, the large advertising budget figure. And to me, here's some simple things which could save some money. I would also, while looking at this first one that I had here, and watching or reading quite a bit of controversy over some, or a senior person leaving our employment, and different controversy about benefits, etc. And seeing this ad or any other ad, I'm wondering if Council is refreshing or going over the benefits, etc. offered to new employees. I fully believe you couldn't entertain presently employed people, but is there some method other municipalities use or something like that to have a bylaw or whatever that you are subject to the change of that bylaw in your employment in the senior management or something to sort of soften the blow of controversy if someone leaves with whatever package? I just would like to mention that because it becomes part of the budget, employment expense, and you often wonder if your senior administrator or city manager has in-camera meetings which are not public as to what direction the council of the day wants to go in regards to packages, everything, especially with new employees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next delegation is Mr. Brock Williamson, but maybe before we start, if someone would like to make a motion, Mr. Kenneth Pierce, I believe, is on also a delegation tonight regarding snow removal, and if someone would like to make a motion to bring him forward onto the delegation. Okay, move and say. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Williamson, is it?
Williamson, that's me.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here, Brock Williamson, myself, and Victoria Drakeford, the landscape architect. I'm just here to show up and answer any questions you may have regarding our DVP application. We are in agreement with the staff report. It's right on. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that if you are going to let this go to notification, I will be petitioning the neighbors just to let them know what we're about. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I see no questions at this time. Thank you, sir.
Move receipt of the delegation.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next delegation is Mr. Bill McKay. Mr. McKay, are you? Yes. Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Just for clarification, Mr. Taylor, are you going to be speaking a second time now, wherever you are? There you are, sir. Is that your time, or we have you down as a third delegation, which you've already spoken to? Was it your intention to speak again?
I spoke to the where you asked for any comments on your budget. Okay. I did put in a request to speak
concerning
to 20 Barsby Avenue.
Yep.
Just to remind council that the council in the past, I believe, supported and passed on to Parks and Rec for information about commemoration of Mr. John Thompson and his business at that address. And I've further said in my request to you today that I would like the council to consider involving the developer and the Heritage Committee and Parks and Rec in council's direction of February the 12th, 2007 for some sort of a community contribution commemorating Mr. Thompson and his business there.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Ms. McKay, you're on.
Thank you, Your Worship. I come to you tonight with all due respect to plead with you concerning to examine very carefully some of the recommendations that are on the agenda tonight concerning the LED sign guidelines for DVP applications. The first line of the economic development strategy says the City of Nanaimo is a community that is ready to embrace change and become more of what it can be. Through the consultation process, many feel that Nanaimo's image from the outside looking in is bright and favorable, yet when looking from the inside out, Nanaimo's image is challenged to live up to that perception. Reviewing the current guidelines concerning LED sign DVPs, it appears that rather than embracing change, our community leaders have developed as many ways as possible to thwart change. Along with the bylaw being considered tonight, according to the agenda that has the effect of prohibiting LED and animated signs, you're being asked to endorse a list of guidelines governing any possible LED development variance permits. Who develops guidelines for initiatives that are prohibited? These restrictions have been designed in such a way that they appear to take on the account of any concerns, objections, and advice, founded or not, by any group who has had any oppositions to these signs in any way. Nanaimo is split from north to south by the Old Island Highway. as we all know. Naturally, city staff sought the advice of the Ministry of Transportation of Highways concerning a recent application abutting the highway. The ministry offered up opinion and a document authored by an individual within the ministry. By their own admission, this document has never been adopted by the ministry executive.
Mr. McKay, if I can just interrupt you for a second. Is this new material you're going to present as well? Because you've presented the same position a week or 2 weeks ago again. Is it the same material?
I intend to review all of the,
go ahead.
many of the items that are discussed in the agenda.
We do have the option of restricting it to new information, but we'll give you the benefit and carry on.
Thank you. By their own admission, this document has never been adopted by the ministry executive. Further, they indicate that the ministry cannot definitively say no to an application based on policy. I've corresponded with the with the regional director of the ministry, and to date we've received no comment back. These recommendations within this information circular include recommending that no LED signs be installed within 393 feet of an intersection or decision point. This restriction will increase to 820 feet where the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, or increase yet again to over 1,600 feet if a sign is to be located near a major traffic sign or decision point. If I have this correct, you're being asked to endorse a restriction that would have a potential to place a sign up to a third of a mile away from the very business it represents. Does this seem feasible? It further says, the recommendations further say, no LED sign can be installed on a property that abuts or is within 165 feet of a provincial highway. You have an application to be reviewed later in the meeting for Port Place Mall. This applicant would not be permitted an LED sign anywhere on their property due to the proximity to the Old Island Highway. That would include all signs on the property, including the backside of the buildings, even though they have no exposure to the highway. If the applicant did apply, how could council then vary a variance instruction? This restriction could also apply to Country Club Mall, Terminal Park, Brooks Landing, Rock City, Longwood, Northridge, and our city's largest taxpayer, Woodgrove Mall. Again, based on the current language, an LED sign cannot even be installed on the rear of the buildings. All LED animated signs visible from the exterior require a sign permit regardless of the sign or location of the sign. While time and temperature and gas price signs have been specifically excluded from the regulation, LED open signs have not. It is not my intent to become nitpicky, but rather to have these signs also excluded due to possible conflicts in the interpretation of the bylaws. And last but not least, the issue of the city-owned conference center sign. In a March 3rd, 2008 report to the Committee of the Whole concerning the sign to be installed on the south end of the Port of Nanaimo Centre, it states, the southwest wall of the Port of Nanaimo Centre was designed and built to accommodate a large digital sign. Due to the fact that Section 14 of the Motor Vehicle Act has been in effect for a considerable length of time, one would assume that the sign on the conference centre was vetted by the Ministry of Highways staff, as was done in the case of the Boston Pizza application. Can we now verify that the sign is in fact legal with respect to Section 214? The staff report goes on to say the operation of this sign will serve as a test to evaluate digital signage in the community. This sign has now been in operation for near 2 years. Does staff have anything to report relative to the scope of the evaluation and any results to report? In closing, one cannot help but wonder how our community is being perceived with respect to its behavior on the subject of LED signage, and what appears to be an unbelievably complicated and convoluted process that should in most cases produce a negative decision concerning any applications in the future. Thank you.
I see just one question. Councillor Holdham.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Mr. McKay, you've read the background staff report, obviously.
Yes.
And it says that since Council decided to consider all signs on a site-specific basis, which provides an opportunity for public input through the development variance permit process, they're saying that the new bylaw has the effect of prohibiting LED and animated signs. However, anyone wishing to vary this limitation has the opportunity to apply for a DVP. And the list of requirements that you're quoting from, they say that Council may use this as a guide when considering DVP applications for LED signs. So these would not form part of the bylaw, but simply a guide for Council, if they wish to use it, when evaluating the applications that come in for specific, site-specific LED signs. I guess what I'm asking is, don't you see this as a way to implement the decision we made 2 weeks ago?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Paggi.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Mr. McKay. I concur with Councillor Holdham in that these are guidelines, and they may be followed and they may not be followed. I also want you to be aware of a conversation that I had the night after 2 weeks ago, what would the date have been? The 9th of January. Andrea Rosado Taylor, the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, called me and appreciated the frankness with which we had discussed this whole issue, and we certainly did discuss the difficulties that arose with it. And I remember telling her distinctly that as far as I was concerned, and I can only speak for myself, I would treat this with the utmost amount of carefulness. And I also want you to know that if and when one of these DVPs with regards to LEDs comes before us, I will treat it with an open mind as best as I can. And in my opinion, that does not concur with your assertion that there will never be any LED signage in Nanaimo. I just don't believe that. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, when you made a very succinct PowerPoint presentation 2 weeks ago, a good portion of that involved the city of Surrey, and you showed some very good slides of what for all intent and purpose could be called attractive signage, very large ones on the freeway. But you neglected to mention to us that the city of Surrey prohibits LED signage and will only allow LED signage on city property, and not more than 6, if I remember correctly. Don't you think it would have been appropriate for us to have heard from you that that was the case in Surrey?
In the city of Surrey, they are having their challenges right now, and that position of the city is being challenged by a large mall in the community on the basis that the city is trying to make themselves the exclusive owners of this new technology. They are being challenged on that.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Councillor Kip.
Yes, through the delegation. Have you got any safety information on LEDs from any place that actually says they're unsafe or that they just could be?
I have, all of the studies that I've read have all been based on human factor studies. Human factor studies say different things relative to how we behave when we're distracted. Can signs of this nature be a distraction? There's a very distinct possibility, as are people who drive through drive-thrus and take food out and intend to eat that food in their car while they're driving. So we notice in the city of Comox that they've banned drive-in restaurants now for that reason. We have not seen any surveys. The people from Daktronics, the largest supplier with over 45% of market share worldwide, have said they have never had one suit against them relative to an accident caused by an LED sign.
Perfect. Also, on a follow-up, if we didn't ask for the information with Surrey, I've been informed many times, unless you ask for the information, you don't get the information. Thanks.
Movers who did the delegation.
Seconder? Moving second. All those in favor? Thank you, sir. The next delegation is Mr. Kenneth Pierce. Mr. Pierce, are you here? Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship, and councillors for seeing me. My name is Ken Pierce, and I live at 259 Villa Road in Nanaimo. And just before I start, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say to you that my wife and I have lived in Nanaimo for 10 years, since 2000. And during that time, I've had a lot of experience in dealing with the staff in the city. And nothing that really impressed me with their professionalism and their willingness to help in any and every occasion. And it's something that I think the city of Nanaimo should be very proud of.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I appear before you this evening to ask Council to review the sidewalk snow removal policy presently in effect. This bylaw, which is Bylaw 5000, Section 22, number 1 reads, owners or occupiers of real property shall remove snow, ice, or rubbish from the sidewalk and footpaths bordering the property owned or occupied by them within 24 hours of such snow, ice, or rubbish on such sidewalk. This bylaw was adopted in November 29, 1993, and it replaced Bylaw 2600, which was adopted in July 30th, 1984. So it's been a long time since it's been reviewed and amended by the City of Nanaimo. I believe the section of the bylaw should be rescinded by the City, and the Public Works Department treat the clearing of sidewalks the same way they treat the removal of snow from city streets where cars drive. And the reasoning is simple. First of all, I believe by favoring cars over pedestrians and sidewalks, that section of the Act is discriminatory to pedestrians in the city. And it violates the BC Human Rights Code, which Section 8.1 says a person must not, without a bona fide or reasonable justification, deny a person or class of person any accommodation, service, or facility customarily available to the public, or discriminate against that person or class of persons regarding any accommodation, service, or facility customary available to the public because of the race, color, ancestry, place of origin, religion, marital status, family status, physical or mental disability, sex, sexual orientation, or age of that person or class of person. As the City of Nanaimo currently provides snow removal services for highway services used by motorists, I believe it is incumbent on the city to provide the same service to pedestrians. In addition to many streets in Nanaimo do not have sidewalks and at all are not subject to the course of the bylaw. In actual fact, their snow was removed by the Public Works Department. Many other streets in my area, such as Uplands Drive, Departure Bay Road, or Rock City Road, only have sidewalks on one side. So while the neighbors on one side of the street are forced to clear the snow from the sidewalks, those on the other side can drink hot chocolate and laugh. Groups who use the sidewalks are also discriminated against. Anybody who has to use a walker, a cane, or an electric cart cannot travel the sidewalks in Nanaimo because the snow is not removed, and they are discriminated against because of that. And the current rules also place an undue hardship on many of our residents. According to Statistics Canada, the 2006 census, which unfortunately is the last census we have available to us, at that time the population of Nanaimo was 78,695 persons, of which 24,660 people, or 31% of the population, was over 55. And those over 60 years of age were 24% of the population. There were 33,525 residential units in the city, of which 57%, or 19,000, were single-family dwellings. It stands to reason that the age statistics would apply to that statistic as well. Many of the elderly residents are unable to physically handle the stress and stamina required to remove snow from the sidewalks. When I retired in 2003, it was because I'd had a bypass, a triple bypass. I can assure you, shoveling sidewalks is something I do not want to do. Citizens of our fair city that are unable to get around using our sidewalks in the aftermath of a snowstorm could easily lay responsibility for this on the feet of homeowners. However, the facts show a much different story. In the area where I walk, and I will describe it, the boundaries to you, the road takes me from my home on Villa Road to Rock City Road, and then up Rock City Road across Departure Bay Road, continuing on up across the Old Island Highway to Labrador Road, then over to Bowen Road, down Bowen Road to the Old Island Highway, and Norwell Drive, and then back in again to Uplands Drive and Villa Road and Home. In that area, there are corporate structures such as the teleswitching station at the corner of Rock City Road and Departure Bay Road. I've never seen that sidewalk shoveled. There's also at least 3 strip malls, 2 shopping centers, and several major businesses in that area as well. And none of them seem to want to shovel the sidewalks that surround their property. Now, in some of the auto dealerships around down Bowen Road, it appears that they did try to shovel the sidewalks in one pass, but the City of Nanaimo Public Works Department, in plowing the roads, threw the snow back up on the sidewalk. They didn't bother going on and finishing it. Also, there's 2 school division properties in that area. School Division 68 has 2 there, Rock City Elementary School and the Wellington High School, which are on Departure Bay Road. None of those had their sidewalks shoveled. In addition to that, I think when you take a look at the corner of the Old Island Highway and Bowen Road, you have a funny situation there. You have, on one side of the street, you have Ward Leeton Motors, you have the E&N Railroad, and then you have the Old Island Highway. And you also have a traffic island there where the city must be responsible for, and you have to get onto that traffic island to select the light to walk. First of all, nobody clears off the traffic island, so you can't get to it, and if you're a handicapped person, it's impossible. Secondly, who is responsible for doing that sidewalk? Ward Leeton, the E&N Railroad, the City of Nanaimo, or the Department of Highways? We don't know. About 80% of the sidewalks in my area, and I walk every day because I have an exercise franchise. It's called a dog, and I have to walk it 3 times a day. 80% of the sidewalks in our area are not cleared, period. So I believe that it is incumbent on the City of Nanaimo to clear those walks if nobody else will. The city bylaw, because this bylaw is obviously unenforceable, or the public is unwilling to enforce it. Thank you.
Okay, I see just one question, sir. Councillor Holdham, I see more than one now. Councillor Holdham?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that's an interesting use of that clause from the Charter, the anti-discrimination clause, and appreciated you using that as part of your argument. But you also describe very well the widespread failure of that bylaw to operate in the City of Nanaimo, and people simply aren't doing what the bylaw calls for. So you're calling for the city to do that, clean up on sidewalks. Would you also advocate the rise in taxes that would require if we took on that task?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Would you support the increase in taxes that it would require to take on that task?
Yeah, every year I worry about my taxes, and I fight having to pay my taxes, and every year I pay my taxes. I believe there are services that taxes provide, and we have to pay them. And I'm willing to pay my taxes for the services I get. I may bitch, I may call you and complain about it, but I pay my taxes, yes. This is, clearing off the sidewalks is not something that other cities don't do.
No, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Hello, Mr. Pierce. Question to staff, if I may. Mr. Hickey, Mr. Pierce made the observation that commercial properties, school district properties are not being looked after. Are they covered under this bylaw? Do they have the responsibility to do that?
Yeah. Yes, they do.
So that's part of the problem as well, then?
I honestly believe that the bylaw, I'm not going to phone up the city bylaw office and complain about my neighbor not shoveling his walk. Okay, he has congestive heart failure. If he falls over and dies because I called the city bylaw officer to shovel his walk, his wife might not thank me. So most people are not going to phone the city bylaw office and complain about the walks not being shoveled, but they're not being cleared. Period.
Thank you.
I think one problem that you have to accept is that when we're doing road clearing with vehicles, with the equipment we've got now, they can do it at a pretty high rate of speed. They can go down the streets up and down and do what I think is a pretty credible job. When you start getting into very confined walkways, the equipment isn't there to handle it, so it means all manual labor, and it's extremely labor intensive.
No, sir. There is the equipment that does that.
Yeah, we don't have it.
It's used in the city of Ottawa, for example.
I'm sure there is.
And it's
we don't
used,
have it.
It's a town smaller than that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
Elliott Lake,
I'm not
Ontario.
arguing with you. I'm simply saying we'd have to spend money to buy that equipment, which we don't now have. And again, are you prepared to underwrite that cost as a taxpayer?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I've got some complaints this year about, and it is tough. City trucks go along and somebody goes out, shovels their sidewalk. Now they said to me, what do I do? Do I take a picture of the sidewalk that I've cleared to prove? Because then the truck comes by and fills it. I think there is equipment in Nanaimo. It would probably have to be contracted by people that are willing. There's quads and different things like that now. But of course, there's insurance problems to run on the sidewalks and things. But I absolutely believe we need to clean around our bus shelters. We need to clean some of our main, just like we clean roads. I mean, we don't want people on the road when it's snowing, and all we do is clean the road for them to drive.
Yes.
I mean, we build a lot of roads, and I've always said it ain't the roads that are bad, it's our drivers. Even in the sign issue, the people driving off the road are bad drivers when they're seeing those signs, and that's my opinion on it. Have staff ever looked at hiring other contractors during that time to do small equipment removal? I know we've tried with a couple of our little machines, but I'm talking quads, the quad clubbers, something like that.
Mayor Rattan, to answer Councillor Kipp's question, we have been working with the Downtown Nanaimo Business Association on doing some sidewalk clearing there, where they have a list of contractors that will do the downtown sidewalks, and we worked on some ideas where some of the parking stalls would be taken out of service so that the snow could be put into those areas. So that's one area where we do some of that. Of course, in front of parks, we have some sidewalk clearing in the park areas. Other than that, Councillor Kipp, we haven't really got into any sidewalk clearing. As you may recall, 2 years ago, after the big snowfall, we presented some ideas for council consideration regarding sidewalk clearing, and as Mayor Rattan says, it is quite expensive to do, and that would be a choice made by the community. So it's a balance, and I think Mr. Pierce brings up some good points, but it's a service balance between roads and sidewalks.
A follow-up, Worship. Thank you very much. When we have a major snow event and we have drainage problems, I saw in Vancouver where city staff shifts from what they're doing. They pick up shovels, they pick up buckets, and they head out and start cleaning up stuff. Do we do that now?
I would say we work to use some of our snow clearing equipment to do that because, as you know, the catch basins are on the side of the road. So towards the end of a storm, you'll see some of our trucks pushing away snow from the side of the road, which probably contributes to some of the sidewalk problem to clear the catch basin so we don't have any drainage issues. And some of our staff do get out there with shovels, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Pierce. I think the biggest problem with that bylaw is it's not enforced. As you said, that various people don't clean theirs. Well, we don't do anything about it if they don't. But question to staff, and I know it's unfair to pop it out like this. Could you tell me what the annual snow clearance budget is? And if not, how much more would it be to do the sidewalk clearance on every sidewalk in the city? Would it double the snow clearance budget?
Mayor Rattan, I can answer what our snow clearing budget is. Our snow clearing budget is $600,000. This last year, 2009, we spent just over $300,000 to year end. So that was one of the first years in several where we were under budget, in fact. Yeah. I can't really comment on how much it would cost to clear all our 700 kilometers of sidewalk, but I believe in the report we presented to council a couple of years ago, we were into probably the $100,000 magnitude for major arterial sidewalks only. So I could be off on that a bit, but that seems to be my recollection. So you're into some serious dollars to do sidewalk clearing.
Yep, okay. We are facing a 4.2% tax increase now, and it's worrisome that if we had to add any more to it. Thank you.
Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for bringing this back to our attention. Just a question to staff. This is a complaint-driven bylaw, I assume?
Yes.
Have we ever enforced this bylaw? Have we gone to residents or property owners or business owners with a violation of this bylaw?
Generally attempt to use moral suasion and urge people to be considerate of their neighbors. We're very reticent to use the heavy hammer of fines and threats, because we certainly understand that many people have many challenges in clearing snow from sidewalks, and we want to work with the community residents and not be using enforcement unless really required, and that would be very rare in the case of snow removal.
So, thank you. So therefore, the bylaw that we currently have is really unenforceable if we're not encouraging people to come forward, albeit on a complaint-driven basis, they would, and I'm sure that you may know this, you would maintain anonymity if you were to complain.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Sherry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pearce, your description of your daily jaunt going up Rock City Road and across the highway down the trailway, how have you found the trailway for walking?
It's great. It is cleared.
And it's clear.
It's cleared.
That's
yes.
right. So I would suggest that we do have some equipment, because whenever you look at that walkway, be it from Mostar Road down, times that I've driven by there, it's been clear, and it's been a benefit to some of the seniors that do have their scooters to operate it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good, sir. I see no further questions. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Delegation.
Just 1 second. Did you want something to add there?
Yes, please, Mayor Tad. The one thing I was going to add is something that Council took the initiative last major snowstorm is to direct staff to clear the 50 highest volume bus routes in town during snowstorms. So that, I think, has been an added benefit, or maybe we can get some feedback from the community of this past winter. But that's an initiative that Council took on 2 years ago to help pedestrians catching buses.
Thank you, Ms. Hickey. Okay.
Receipt of the delegation.
Seconder? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The next item is the mayor's report, and the new zoning bylaw, the public open house dates rather, are as follows. On February 8th, 2011 at the Nanaimo Ice Centre, February 10th, 2011 at the Bevan Park Social Centre, February the 16th, 2011 at Dover Bay Secondary School, the multipurpose room. And just for the benefit of those people here, the timing is all open houses will be held from 5:30 to 8 p.m. On those 3 dates as given. Now, we have a slide. Or is it behind me now? Because unfortunately, we don't have a monitor in front of us here. Okay. 5:30 to 8. Is that it? No, because unfortunately, we don't have a monitor. So,
you're just going to report that these are the dates?
That's great.
Okay.
The ones the same behind me.
I have difficulty with locations here. The most southern open house identified this is, we'll say, 3rd Street. Anything south of that, be it Harewood, the University District, South End, or the Chase River area, the people are going to have to find their ways to come in. And I just think for that vast area that I understand that staff have had problems locating a venue for hosting such a drop-in and that, and I would suggest that maybe they contact the likes of the Moose Hall or something like that, which don't have the same deals, because I think we want to have the whole community tie into this zoning bylaw, and I would encourage them to search out a venue in the most southern part of our community.
Valid point, Councillor Sherry. Does staff have a comment on whether we can add to the 3 locations already listed and appearing behind me? Mr. Tucker.
Yes, Your Worship, we'll follow up on that suggestion.
Okay. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say that as well as adding another site, which I think is a good idea, that there are several new initiatives in the zoning bylaw that staff's proposing. We're now have been discussing it at the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee for the last couple of months, and we'll be continuing to discuss it there as well. Some of those initiatives include new zones for the corridor areas in the official community plan, a reduced minimum lot size from 600 to 450 square meters, and a number of other initiatives that you should really look at. There's a strong attempt here in this proposal to bring the zoning bylaw more into compliance with the official community plan of Nanaimo, and that may mean some significant changes to zone definitions. So I urge people, wherever the venues are, these 3 and any we add, to come out and take a look, see how it affects your property, see how it affects the properties around you, and give us any feedback that you have to this proposal. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Councillor Oldham. Mr. Tucker, go ahead. Sorry, you're now on.
Just further to Councillor Oldham's comments, just to direct people to the city's website. The draft text of the bylaw is on the website, as is the mapping. So everyone is encouraged to go on and check the proposals, both the mapping and the text amendments to the bylaw, and there's also opportunity to provide feedback on that.
Okay, and if we are able to secure some southern sites for additional locations, that'll also appear on the website as well, will it?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the next item, Karen Lindsay, the Emergency Program Manager, will now take a minute to discuss the Great BC Shakeout, which is happening in 2 days, Wednesday, January the 26th at 10 a.m. Some of you may have seen one of the local papers had a picture of Councillor Sherry and myself, and actually Karen Lindsay hiding under a table. Not one of my better photos, I might add, but it rarely is when you're your hands and knees. The Great British Columbia Shakeout is an earthquake drill that encourages all residents in BC to drop cover and hold on, and is an awareness. Premier Gordon Campbell recently issued a letter of support for this drill, and there's been a great deal of public interest as a result. We live in an earthquake, active earthquake zone, averaging 1,200 earthquakes annually. It's up to all of us to be prepared for man-made and natural disasters, and this drill serves as a timely reminder for all of us to be prepared. The City of Nanaimo employees will be participating in the drill, and other key organizations in the community, such as the Vancouver Island University, School District 68, just to name a few. Since the start of the public education campaign for this drill in local media, the City of Nanaimo has had one of the highest participation rates in British Columbia for the Great Shakeout. I would like to extend my thanks to all who signed up and encourage residents to be informed. And if you haven't registered, Karen, who is now before us at the podium, will now provide you with all the details on how to sign up. Karen, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. You mentioned, I'm here to talk to you briefly about the Great British Columbia Shakeout, which is being more commonly referred to as Shakeout BC now. The Great Shakeout is happening this Wednesday, which is January 26th at 10 a.m. As you mentioned, Mayor Rattan, the intent of the drill is to drop cover and hold on. It's the largest earthquake drill in Canadian history and is modeled after the very successful Great California Shakeout, which has been going on for 3 years. They're actually at the point where they're having transportation stop, which I know the regional district is going to be doing based on the recent press release that they announced. As of today, the BC Shakeout has had over 400,000 participants participants register, which we're very pleased with, and I know the provincial government's very pleased with as well, because I think in the first year we were anticipating possibly 250,000 and we would have been doing good. So it definitely is gaining some ground. It's a province-wide drill, which is being locally organized or being organized at the local level. So there's a campaign that's going on provincially, and at the emergency program managers, emergency program coordinators at the local government level are taking the information and the model that they developed and taking it out to their community and to their citizens to encourage them to get ready. Obviously, the goal is to get everyone in the province to participate, and my goal is to get everybody in the city of Nanaimo to participate. So why do we want to have a drill? And as you can see, basically we live in what's known as earthquake country. As Mayor Rattan mentioned, we have on average 1,200 earthquakes a year, and I know people don't realize them and they don't feel them. Basically, by preparing for an earthquake, you're going to be also prepared for most of the man-made and natural events that occur in this community in addition. So practice makes perfect. Why do we drill? It's intended to become an annual event with the reason that practice makes perfect. We see our kids practicing this. I think they do it annually or semi-annually, and as you mentioned, School District 68 is going to be involved in this as well, and we want residents and business to practice. In addition, with that practice, we want them to review their emergency plans, and we want them to take a look at their business continuity plans. That way, when an earthquake hits, you know what to do when it happens, and basically it becomes natural. You just do it. So what do? The internationally accepted protocol for initial response when the shaking is starting is drop, cover, and hold on. Essentially, you drop when the earthquake starts, if you're not knocked off your feet first. Cover, as you mentioned, you get under a sturdy piece of furniture or table, cover your head and neck, and then hold on. Hold on to the table as the table will be moving, and that basically gives you the protection that you need from falling debris. And a lot of the injury and death that happens in earthquakes is due to falling debris. So why drop, cover, and hold on? I've got a couple pictures here. This is from Christchurch, September 2010, which was just recent, magnitude 7.0, and you can see the movement in the debris that's shifted around. Drop, covering, and holding on provides people with the best chance to avoid the debris. This is a picture of Mexicali, northern Mexico, April 2010 as well, and this was a 7.2, and this is actually in a school. And again, you can see there's spaces underneath the desks where the kids can go and hold on, drop, cover, hold on, and be protected from the debris, the lamps that have fallen down. So what can residents do? We want you to register as a participant at shakeoutbc.ca, either your group, family, office, school, whatever the case may be. In addition, there's a great deal of resources available on that website that talks about emergency preparedness, developing your emergency kits, and you can also visit the city website at nanaimo.ca, visit the emergency program division under the fire department page. Also, if you've signed up and you know others that haven't, we would like you to spread the word. Tell others about it, about the drill and how to participate. In addition, 102.3 and 106.9, The Wave, will be announcing a reminder at 10 a.m. on that day to either practice your drop, cover, and hold, or to talk about the drop, cover, and hold on method. So basically, participate January 26, 2011 at 10 a.m. And I'd like to thank Mayor and Council for your support of this important drill. Your support of this drill has had a positive impact on the community and has demonstrated to the citizens the importance of emergency preparedness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions. Thank you. It was a great exercise, and I want to extend my appreciation to you and certainly the whole fire department for getting involved with this worthwhile program.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, proclamations that the month of February 2011 is Heart Month in the city of Nanaimo. 8B, that 2011 February 6th to February 12th is Burn Awareness Week in the city of Nanaimo. And that C, that the month of February 2011 is Black History Month in the city of Nanaimo. We'll now move into committee reports, and Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, recreational vehicle parking. Committee's recommendation that committee's recommendation that recreational vehicle parking continue to be regulated as currently stated in the City of Nanaimo zoning bylaw 1993 number 4000.
So moved.
Seconder, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd just like to know, possibly through Councillor Holdham, the recreational vehicle in the new zoning bylaw is not proposed to be changed. Is that correct, or staff can answer that?
At the present time, there's no proposed changes with regards to recreational vehicle parking.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sherry.
To you, Mr. Chairman. Who will be governing that after the new bylaw? Does it fall under bylaw enforcement or whatever? I better explain the question for you, okay? Because when we start talking about, and when we had the presentation here of the individual, it's shown vehicles both parked out on the street and both on the property. Now, under the zoning bylaw, we're dealing with the matter of a vehicle in whatever form is necessary while it's parked on their property. Who looks after the parking of recreational vehicles in whatever form on the roadways and on the right-of-ways?
Municipal enforcement staff.
Your Worship, if any residents have any complaints that they'd like to make, our bylaw enforcement department should be contacted. It would be a dual effort with highways and traffic, but the file would be through our bylaw enforcement.
Well, kind of funny that bylaws was formed a incident in the community, and I got a phone call this afternoon that they must have called around to the individual's residence, had a discussion with them, and the vehicle was driven around the block and parked back where it was. But if the chalk mark isn't in the same place, how are you going to do it? And this is some of the problems that the individual that made the presentation before, is that if they're parking it on their property, that's one thing, but if they're parking it on the community property, there's another thing. So it's just a matter of what rules and regulations are being governed and whom do they contact to express their concerns.
Okay. Council.
Could I get an answer?
Oh, please? Sorry. Did it not?
Your Worship, my answer is the same, that you would contact bylaw enforcement. We'll coordinate the response. If traffic and safety needs to be involved, we would pass the file on or jointly enforce it.
Thank you.
Councillor Oldham.
Yes, Your Worship. This is coming from the committee I chair, this recommendation, the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, and we had quite a discussion about this issue. I think the committee generally felt that we should try to make the existing bylaw work, because there seemed to be several violations of that bylaw in the pictures that we were shown before developing a new bylaw. We also recognize that we are a community in which many of the subdivisions, if not most of the subdivisions, do not have laneways at the back or other means of accessing individual properties that would at least give people an option rather than parking their recreation vehicles out in front of their houses or on the road in front of their houses. So it's not that it's not an issue, it's just that the committee felt that we should try to do better with the bylaws we have rather than constructing new ones at this point.
Thank you. We'll move along into item 11, staff reports.
Question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. We're bashing along too quickly on this thing. Sorry. Did you want to make a motion on that?
It's made, I think.
Okay.
Motion was made and second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. You're opposed, are you?
Yes.
Okay, we show that Councillor Unger opposed, balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
Okay.
Community Safety and Development, DP 697 at 20 Barsby Avenue. Staff recommendation that council issue development permit number DP 697 for 20 Barsby Avenue, which would renew development permit DP 593, including the following variances: aquatic setback variances of 20 meters or 65.6 feet, front yard setback variance of 6 meters or 19.71 feet, and building height variance 2.5 meters or 8.2 feet.
Move the staff recommendation. Second.
Moved and seconded. I see, Councillor Holden, did you want to do this one?
No, that was last.
Okay, Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. As I know this is a renewal of an existing variance, but could staff remind me, did we have an environmental consultant look at the impact of the setback reduction of 20 meters for the Millstone River?
Yes, Your Worship. There was an environmental assessment done on the site.
And it was approved?
It was recommended for the reduction, and this is a renewal of that original variance on the site.
Thank you.
Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question to staff. In the renewal rationale, it indicates the applicant is requesting the development permit be renewed as current market conditions preclude development of this project at this time. May I ask if there's been, as I understand it, the climate is somewhat improved or upgraded from when the original permit was taken out and then renewed previously. So my question is, has there been dialogue with the applicant for the potential to proceed with this project, as I think that the current market conditions have improved, as opposed to preclude development?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Bestwick, this proposal is for a 58-unit apartment building, and we've seen the market improving for smaller projects or projects that can be phased. For example, a series of fourplexes that you build one, sell them out, build the next four, and so on. This, because of the nature of the building, 58 units all at one time, the banks require 50% of the equity be raised usually in advance, and then also 50% pre-sales, or possibly even 60% pre-sales. So a larger project is more difficult to finance than smaller projects, and what my understanding is that there's still financing issues regarding this, but they are still intent on proceeding with their development program.
That helps. Thank you. Recognizing that we have a couple of projects on the board now for apartment considerations on Wakasai Avenue, for example, one if not two. So I'm just hopeful that we can see some of these projects that we have several of starting, and I understand the complications relative to financing. But I think that it would be nice to see some of these developments, if there's any way that we can incent them to have them commence. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. A question to staff as well. Most, if not all of us, last week attended an evening that was put on by the Canadian Home Builders Association, which was led by our very own Mr. Toby Seward in a very professional manner, I might add. At that point, he referred to the fact that there are a lot of applications on hold, so that we should get ourselves ready for, I think he used the word avalanche of these kind of renewals. Does this one fall in that category? And if that is so, how many of these shall we be expecting?
I can't speak for all the numerous applicants, obviously, but I would estimate that we probably have in the order of 40 or 50 projects that have been approved over the last 2-3 years, which have not proceeded. And if those proponents are still actively seeking to move forward with their projects, then we could see a considerable amount of development activity in the years ahead.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next is DVP 162, 3725 and 3729 Bel Air Drive. Staff recommendation that council direct staff to proceed with the required statutory notification for development variance permit DVP 162 at 3725 and 3729 Bel Air Drive.
Move the staff recommendation.
Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. DVP 164, 434 Hillcrest Avenue. Staff recommendation the council direct staff to proceed with the required statutory notification for development variance permit number DVP 164 at 434 Hillcrest Avenue. Moved. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. DVP 165 at 650 Terminal Avenue, Port Place sign. It's requested council herein wishing to speak with respect to DVP 165. The staff recommendation is that council issue the development variance permits number DVP 165 at 650 Terminal Avenue. What is your pleasure on that? Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to DVP 165?
Move the staff recommendation.
Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Covenant amendment process policy. Staff recommendation the council adopt a policy requiring amendments to covenants secured through rezoning to proceed via 1. Public hearing process for use, density, or community contribution amendments, and 2. Development variance permit DVP process for all other technical amendments. And that's it. So. Moved and seconded. I see Councillor Sherry. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like a better explanation for myself. Is when we say covenants, are we talking about subdivisions that? Because I happen to live in the old Cinnabar Valley that had a covenant placed on the property of no subdivision to make smaller, but subdivision to make bigger. Is that the kind of covenant that you're suggesting that we take out and get more control or get some control on?
Mr. Tucker?
Yes, Your Worship. These would be covenants that we as the city have requested to be registered as a condition of a rezoning application. So they are usually conditions of use that are put on. They may be of the nature, and the reason why we make this distinction in the recommendation, there are some times where in a rezoning, as a result of public input, there's a list of permitted uses, but the public at the public hearing has come out and said, we're okay with this generally, but we don't like this, this, and this use. So we as the city would put as a condition of the rezoning restriction on use, for example. There are other situations where it might be something like a condition where the building can be no higher than such and such an elevation. So those ones where it's about use and we're taking one of those restrictions on use off a property, what we're saying is those should really go back to public hearing because it was the public through their concern that raised the concern about use. For the ones that are of a lesser degree, those we're suggesting to go through a development variance permit process because it's not affecting the density of the project or it's not affecting the use. And this was a result of the public hearing just recently where members of the public were confused as to why they were here speaking to council and thought it was a rezoning. So we're trying to clarify that through a process that is perhaps easier for the public to understand.
And Your Worship, just to further to Mr. Tucker's, Councillor Sherry is referring to as a building scheme, I believe, that are registered at the time of subdivision that don't have anything to do with the city. Those are not ones that we are including at all in this process. We, under council direction, are not enforcing those or dealing with them at all. And they're substantially different.
I guess that's one of the problems with the definition of terminology of covenants and building schemes, whatever your technical words there. Thank you.
Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship. Can staff remind me of that issue that we had the public hearing on and we said, why are we here? What issue was that one? Do we remember?
That was on Ledgerwood. It was 3 apartment buildings, and the covenant stipulated the number of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units that were to have been built under a previous proposal, and the new proposal was a different building design, and so therefore those restrictions didn't really apply to what was currently in front of council.
Yeah, that was kitty corner to Slade Lumber, right?
Yes, roughly. That's right.
And so this will take the process to do development variance permit. Similar process.
For those type of issues that are relatively minor, but what we're saying is for use and density and community contribution, we'd still go to public hearing.
Thank you. Clarified.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Over to page 4, we're going to deal with LED and animated signs. Staff recommendation that Council 1, abandon sign amendment bylaw 2008 number 7081, and 2, receive the report pertaining to sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 3, endorse the LED and animated sign guidelines as attached.
Separately, please.
Okay, we'll do that. Sorry, Adam. Sorry? He didn't move it. He just. So we'll do them individually. And would somebody like to move one?
Move one.
Move one. A seconder. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Bestwick. Are you opposed? Councillor Kipp, Councillor Bestwick, and Councillor Sherry opposed. The balance of councils in favor. So the motion passes.
Move receipt of the report. Number 2.
Number 2, okay. And is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And 3, endorse the LED and animated sign guidelines as attached. Moved and seconded. You're moving. I see. Oh, Councillor Unger, go ahead.
Yes, I want to go to the recommendations because it says no LED animated sign shall be permitted on a property abutting or within 50 meters, 164 feet of a provincial highway. Now, any property that abuts a provincial highway would not be allowed to have a sign. LED animated signs visible to highway users must not be a nuisance that distracts. How do we determine what is a nuisance and what isn't? For highways where the posted speed limit is less than 80 kilometers an hour, an LED animated sign shall not be within 120 meters, which is almost 400 feet of a major traffic sign or driver decision and action point. For highways where the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour or greater, LED animated signs shall not be within 250 meters, that's 820 feet of a major traffic sign, nor 500 meters, which is 1,640.4 feet of a driver decision action point. I mean, these are just so ridiculous. The nearest sign we could have would be 2 miles north of Duncan. There's no way I can support this. This is taken to the extreme.
Okay. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I disagree with Councillor Unger. We have hashed this to death practically over the last couple of months. The ones that Councillor Unger is referring to are on highways with some pretty high speeds, and I can't see anything wrong with doing this in the name of safety, and so I shall be supporting this.
Councillor Oldham.
Yes, Your Worship. Everything that Councillor Unger is quoting from is under the heading guidelines. On the same page, halfway down, is the heading operating requirements. These are the things that people would have to do. Guidelines are simply used as a guide, or simply offered as a guide to council to consider when an application for an animated or LED sign comes forward. And I don't I can't imagine actually an application that wouldn't go against at least one of these guidelines. The whole point is to, and the whole process that the staff is suggesting here is to allow for the council to look at each sign individually on a site-by-site basis. That's the effect of this. The guidelines are just that. And if you don't agree with the guidelines, then I guess you would approve signs that come in that want to vary those. So, I don't see there's any problem here.
Any staff comment on this for clarification?
Your Worship, it's as Councillor Holdham described. The guidelines would be what people would be applying to vary, and to provide council with a parallel situation or a comparable situation. Council a few years back, for example, removed liquor retail stores as a permitted use out of the shopping centre zones, and then considered each application for a liquor store on its own merits. So in what we're suggesting here is this provides the guidelines, which are the Ministry of Transportation and Highways recommendations to us, which were considered previously, and then it would be up to council to consider the speed of the road, what were adjacent uses, what was the amount of sign clutter, et cetera, and then make a determination on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would have to echo the sentiments of Councillor Unger, in so much as the guidelines are typically utilized also if a business comes to the City of Nanaimo to make an application for a sign of this nature or any other, then they would be provided with the city's guidelines. And the guidelines would say if you fall within the majority or any of these or any one of these, we would probably discourage you from pursuing and spending more money, time, energy, resources, because these are the guidelines that council will be following once they come to make a decision. And I think I heard that from my colleague that in the name of safety. So pretty much any application that comes in on a day that ends in Y is not likely to be approved.
Okay, Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, just a question to staff. Not much has changed. We really haven't moved the goalpost very far on this in 3-4 years, have we? This bylaw is not much different than we had before because it is limiting. And what I mean by that, it's going to send it to DVP. If the person doesn't like how the DVP, it can go directly to council still, and council can make an adjudication at that point, similar to the last sign issue we had. Is that correct?
Your Worship. Your Worship, certainly council has reviewed all spectrums of this issue over and over, and no matter what bylaws or policies you adopt, even if you adopted an LED bylaw that allowed them everywhere, at a certain size, someone could apply for a variance to make it bigger. It's always their application or their right to apply for an application. This was the compromise I think council came up with in order to actually move forward and receive applications and adjudicate them on a site-by-site basis.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bestwick, that might be interesting. Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Sherry, Councillor Kipp, and Councillor Unger opposed. And so those in favor, so it's 4-4, it's defeated on a tie vote.
Next item.
The next one is application for an expanded liquor license outdoor patio, Palace Hotel, 275 Skinner Street. Staff recommendation, the council recommend that the Liquor Control and Licensee Branch LCLB approve the application to increase the size of the existing licensed patio area for the Palace Hotel at 275 Skinner Street, subject to 1, the applicant meeting the building permit conditions outlined in the report, and 2, the applicant meeting the conditions recommended by the RCMP as outlined in the report.
Move staff recommendations 1 and 2.
Second motion.
Moved 1 and 2. I see no discussion. Councillor Kipp, you're on, sorry.
I just want to, Worship, regarding this issue of the bar watch and the bylaw, can we actually put a bylaw in place where every pub in Nanaimo has to have bar watch?
Well, can I ask that to staff? I, for one, would support that, but maybe Mr. Tucker or
I mean, I know
Mr. Slavey?
The reason that this isn't in this, I know this proponent supports bar watch in his other establishments, but because of some discrepancy between a similar sort of beer parlor establishment, there isn't there. But is there no way to make it mandatory?
Your Worship, I would have to take legal advice on that. I don't believe that we have the authority to do that, but I would ask that I be able to report back to Council on that matter.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Johnson first. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I would agree with staff's recommendation on the application tonight, providing all of the criteria are met. However, do we have to have somewhere in this statement, in this this recommendation, the 180 seat capacity? Not at all. That's all part of it.
Yeah. It's my understanding the applicant has agreed to the conditions as outlined, including the RCMP request.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Question to staff. On page 68 and 69 of the blue pages, there were 6 issues that the RCMP brought to you. Have all of those been fulfilled?
We've met with the proponent, and the proponent is agreeable, and they are working with the RCMP to implement those. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bestwick is opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. Sorry? No. The report of the public hearing held Thursday, 2011, January 6, for bylaws 4,000.492, 4,000.493, 4,000.494, and 6,500.013. Staff recommendation that the council receive the report and the minutes of the public hearing held Thursday, 2011, January 06.
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unsightly premises, 1520 Frew Road. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 1520 Frew Road. Staff recommendation that council pursuant to property maintenance bylaw 1990 number 3704 and amendments thereto direct the owners of 1520 Frew Road to remove car parts, household garbage, appliances, miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days. The work will be undertaken by the city's agent at the owner's cost.
Photos are behind us.
And there are the photos.
Anybody here?
There too.
Anybody here?
Now, is there anyone here that would like to speak to matters regarding 1520 Frew Road?
Move the staff recommendation.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 2011-2015 financial plan bylaw. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to the financial plan bylaw 2010 number 7121, which is presented in the bylaw section of the agenda.
Move receipt of the report.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Zero-based budgeting. Staff recommendation that council approve option 3 to have staff continue to evaluate alternate budgeting process, including a performance measure to bring back a report for discussion at a future council seminar session. Moved and seconded. I see no questions. Oh, sorry. Councillor Patchy, go ahead.
I support the recommendation. I just wanted to point out that, I have read these 7 pages of the staff report probably about 4 or 5 times, and it's not nearly enough information for me to base a position on. So I'm looking forward to a seminar session, but I would like to know from Mr. Kenning when we might expect one of those. I'd rather have it sooner than later.
We can schedule the next available date. We try to have noon hour seminars only once a week, and so we'll schedule one in the next date.
Thank you.
Councillor Kipp.
No, it's okay, Your Worship.
Okay, we'll move along now to...
We're going to vote on
sorry, you got him here. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Kipp and Councillor Bestwick opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. Sorry?
Just a point of personal privilege, I guess.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank staff for this report. I thought it was very comprehensive and covered a number of options, and that I think it's opened some doors, and perhaps it's good to move on from a budgeting process that's 40 years old. Let's see what's new. I just want to ask through staff if the seminar session is open to the public because of a question we got on an email late today.
I would think so. Sure. Yeah, I would think so. There wouldn't be any reason to have it closed that I'm aware of.
No, I didn't think so either. It's open. It's just that we don't make any decisions there. And in fact, we've been doing a lot of our budget explorations and questioning at those seminar sessions over the last few months. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move along then to the design for Beach Drive storm outfall. Staff recommendation that council award the design of Beach Drive storm outfall to Anderson Civil Consultants for a fee limit of $28,352.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The information items.
Move receipt of the 4 information items.
Okay, is there someone like to second? Move and second it. Any discussion? Any questions on 12A?
All in favor of receipt?
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Are there any questions related to A, B, C, or D that anyone wants to bring up? Hearing none, we'll go into the reconsideration of bylaws, and we'll turn that over to Councillor Unger, who's the acting mayor. Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.482 RA 245 5825 Turner Road to rezone the subject property from single family residential zone RS1 to single family residential small lot zone RS6 in order to subdivide the lot be adopted.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.492 RA 246 at 730 Sterling Avenue to rezone the subject property from single-family residential zone RS1A to residential triplex and quadruplex zone RM2 in order to facilitate the construction of a quadruplex past third reading.
Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2010, number 4000.493, RA 255 at 149 Wakesaya Avenue to rezone the subject property from low-density multiple-family residential townhouse zone RM3 to medium-density multiple-family residential suburban zone RM5 in order to add density in the form of a 30-unit, 3-story apartment building past third reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010, number 4000.494, RA 257, lots 1905, 1913, 1917, and 1921 Northfield Road to rezone the subject properties from single-family residential zone RS1 to public institution zone P2 in order to facilitate the development of a personal care facility containing 120 beds for the purpose of dementia care past third reading.
Seconded. I see no... Oh, Councillor Bassett, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question to staff. In previous meeting, we heard that the south side of Northfield Road in some period was identified as residential, and the north side of Northfield Road, which is possesses more industrial and commercial build-outs and opportunities. Yeah. Is there anything within our history that would suggest that the one side is the north side is designated per se for such opportunities, whereas the south side is residential primary?
Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. In the official community plan, the north side where the light industrial is located has retained that light industrial designation, and the south side is a mixture of the corridor and the neighborhood designations for the residential uses. As part of the official community plan, there was concern about loss of light industrial land, and that's why the decision was to keep the north side of the street in the light industrial designation.
Which I understand. So my question is, then, is the south side have the same designation as the north side?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, so...
Your Worship. Go ahead. Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Your Worship. I've been on council long enough to remember what Councillor Bestwick's referring to, and that was the understanding, if not officially put into an OCP for at least 25 years, that the north side of town site would be light industrial and the south side would be residential. And of course, this bylaw maintains that distinction because this is a residential development that we're dealing with.
You mean north, though, didn't you?
I mean the south. This application for the south side of
Northfield.
Northfield. Did I say town site again? I did that last time too. I'm sorry. I'm speaking of Northfield.
Okay. Councillor Kemp, did you have something?
Yeah, Your Worship, I'm just really concerned for the neighborhood on this issue too. The Begonia Way people, around some of our facilities we've had a problem with parking, and I know it's a great organization that's working to build this building and put it together. I really want them to work with staff and the community on the traffic on Northfield, how it exits and enters, and the Begonia Way and the walkway, so that it's not tied up with parking in that area by the people that work in the facility, because we have had a lot of problems around a lot of our facilities with parking over the last while. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wish to, if I may, if I may, just ask a question of Councillor Holdham's explanation, designating on the south side from single-family residential to multi-family. Is that what you indicated?
Your Worship, through you. I think that the distinction that I remember was that it would be residential on the south side of Northfield and light industrial on the north side.
Correct.
And this maintains that difference, that distinction, because this, of course, is an application for a residential development. I guess some of the people living there may argue that this is a single-family residential development exclusively on the south side of Northfield, but I don't think that was ever the case or ever the understanding that it would be maintained just for single family. The distinction was residential.
Thank you. Then may I just ask staff a question? So Councillor Holdham also indicated that he thought perhaps for a 25-year period. Is there any mention of that in any of our community plans, or is that reasonably accurate? There was a year placed on it, such as 25.
Your Worship, I believe Councillor Holdham, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is referring to the designations that have been in the OCPs over the years, and they've always encouraged a mix of uses in the single-family neighborhoods, which would include multifamily.
And then, okay, and then so P2. Could you please give me other examples of what P2 institutional zone could be on that south side of Northfield Road, please?
They could be churches, schools, any kind of community public institution use, community care facilities, that sorts of thing.
So clearly then the public institution use isn't considered multi-residential?
In fact, Councillor Bestwick, the city's zoning bylaw has treated actually community care facilities and multifamily quite similar in terms of the definitions and the types of uses. There was amendments made in years past that actually blended the two in terms of how they would function and how the densities and uses would interrelate.
Thank you. One of the reasons why I'm asking these questions is because of the concerns and issues and complaints and otherwise that we've had surrounding the hospital, around Dufferin and around its zoning and around its parking and around, a number of matters. So I just want to have clarity for my mind that what P2 is and how it will impact the entire build-out of Northfield Road as we progress in the coming years for Northfield Road and its residential component on the south side, because I think it's really important when we ultimately 5-lane Northfield Road and we ultimately do those things that we've had on the proposed since 1994 to consider doing. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, since this general concept of residential uses only on the south side, it was to put a stop for commercial, be it a grocery store or whatever, on the south side of Northfield Road. And since that concept has been in, there's, I guess, about maybe, I'll say 2 blocks at the most, going east on Northfield Road, going towards Brooks Landing there. There's a little complex in there where there's, I'll say, a multi-family complex in there, which are all low-level housing project that has gone in there since this concept has been there, and I don't recall when that development was going in that there was a major concern.
Question on that.
Okay, I see no further questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that official community plan amendment bylaw 2010 number 6500.013 OCP 64 general text and map amendments to maintain the effectiveness and accuracy of the bylaw pass third reading.
Second motion. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that official community plan amendment bylaw number 2010 number 6500.013 be adopted.
Second. Seconded. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
That I move that sign amendment bylaw 2010 number 7081 to permit LED animated signage be abandoned.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
No,
Councillor Bestwick alone, I think, is opposed.
In view of the earlier action by council, introduction of bylaws, is that one still valid?
Certainly it's valid to proceed with abandonment of the bylaw.
I'm talking about the next one, introduction of bylaws.
A123. We're back to confusion on the sign.
That would be up to council if council's intent is still to proceed with development variance permits to allow them without any criteria, then you should pass this bylaw.
Thank you. Then I move that sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120 to regulate LED signs past first reading.
Moved, seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Unger, Councillor Kipp, Councillor Sherry opposed. Bounce of council in favor. You're opposed too, are you?
I would just like to ask a question before the second reading.
Sorry, go ahead.
Would Mr. Swaby please repeat what he just said prior to the first reading?
Your Worship, Going back to the report, I'm assuming because council passed the first two recommendations and your intent was still to deal with LED signs as by way of development variance permit, that you would want to make the changes to the bylaw which prohibits them throughout the city and then deal with them by way of variance. The part that I think, as I understand, council didn't pass was any of the guidelines or specific regulations about the diode levels and the refresh rates. So we would assume that you were interested in having applications made that have no criteria associated with it, and that you would adjudicate them based on a site-by-site basis. So this bylaw is required to eliminate them from the bylaw anywhere in the city because they're currently permitted in the downtown.
Okay.
I think we need to revisit this.
Yeah. I move that sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120 pass second reading.
Second. Moved in. All those in favor? Opposed? We have, there's just a little bit of clarification, I think, on the previous one. It was not a 4-4 vote, so it would be...
No, the previous one was 5-3.
Was it 5-3? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Is that correct on it? Okay, sorry. So this one, I will actually, just for clarification, let's call again. All those in favor? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's defeated for a tie vote.
Which means there's no third reading.
Your Worship.
Yeah.
I'm voting against this because I'm confused of where we're sitting right now. We've gone from having the original information today and recommendation was that we bring in LEDs, but under a strict regime of requirements, which we voted against. And now we're looking and failing the whole bylaw, which means we'll be right back to the existing bylaw that we've been working on, where LEDs are only allowed in the downtown core?
Your Worship, there's currently in the existing sign bylaw, there's a schedule which identifies where animated signs are permitted, which is in general sense the downtown. There is, as part of this bylaw, we were seeking to refine the definition so that it was clear what it included. But following council's direction of adjudicating them on a site-by-site basis, the amendment was to not allow animated signs anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
That's why I'm voting against them.
So have you finished, Councillor Kipp?
Yes.
Councillor Oldham.
Yes, Your Worship, I certainly don't want to get back into the debate on the issue. I just want to deal with process here. What I understand, and I just need some confirmation from staff, is that we had 3 things to consider in the staff report earlier in the agenda. The third part of that was to endorse guidelines. Specifically, it says
66 and 60.
Endorse the LED and animated sign guidelines as attached. So when I look at those, that's the top part of page 2, correct? Under the report, it's actually page 66 on our agenda.
Your Worship, that would be page 65.
No, it would be, and certainly what I was voting on was the guidelines, because that's what the motion specifically referred to. It did not refer to operating requirements, and it did not refer to application requirements. Those are requirements, and what we were clearly voting on earlier in the agenda was guidelines. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so isn't it appropriate to proceed with the sign amendment bylaw that would provide the application and operating requirements for LED signs to be placed into the new sign bylaw?
Are they in the bylaw? No, Your Worship, those are not in the sign bylaw. Those would just be a standard application form at the front counter.
Okay, so they would still exist whether they're in the bylaw or not?
No, they would have no legal status.
In other words, what you were recommending was a process by which council could look at LED sign applications on a site-by-site basis. Now, whether or not the guidelines are in there, doesn't the rest of the procedure that you've recommended we follow achieve that purpose?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Holm, I'm equally as confused, and I apologize. And I would suggest that we come back to you with some options, because I think that I am not clear at this point what Council wishes to do with this.
I don't think it's a matter of what council wants to do with this. You're telling me that what we did earlier in the meeting wasn't what was intended.
Yeah.
I move that we reconsider second reading.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion?
Reconsider second reading? Second.
Yeah.
Your Worship, where does that put us now? If I can have that answer.
Second reading.
And we're just going to second reading.
Yes.
Yes, we're going back to second reading, which was 14A2, and
regulate LED signs.
Right. Everyone is with council. We're all comfortable with where we're at, because we're going to ask for a motion again on this thing to
First, we vote on reconsideration.
Okay, all those in favor of reconsideration? Opposed? Okay, so we're going to reconsider. So we're
Sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120 pass second reading.
Okay, second reading. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. We have Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Kipp, and Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. It passes.
I move that sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120 pass third reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed. Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Kipp, Councillor Unger opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
I move that financial plan bylaw 2011 number 7121 to confirm and adopt the financial plan pass first reading.
Your Worship, Your Worship, I have something on that.
Go ahead.
On page 171 of the adoption of the bylaw, 5B says the Director of Finance may transfer unexpended appropriations to reserve funds and what? Just a typo error? I think so. Yeah, okay, so if we can scratch the and, I'll vote for this.
What is the rest of the sentence?
Nothing. It just says to reserve funds, I think. It ends at to reserve funds?
Yeah, there should be
Yay. Okay, and then just further on that, Your Worship, the next page over, page 172, that's a balance sheet, the financial plan. The annual surplus deficits across the line, 5, 7, 13, 16, 6. And then down on the second to bottom line, transfers from accumulated surplus, transfers to or from accumulated surpluses. The brackets in 2011 mean what to me?
Taking it out.
That's taking it out of reserve, correctly?
That's correct, taking it out of reserve.
To make the budget balance. But we have a $5 million that will go into surplus, right?
This is a rather confusing presentation that we're required to do to account for the transfers to and from the capital fund to fund capital expenditures.
Okay, so I just worry in 2014 the bottom line says $21 million we have to transfer out. That's our water plant, I believe, or something?
Probably, yes.
$21 million. Okay. It's a lot of money. Okay, I just wanted to point those out.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Bestwick, did you have something?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was on deck, I thought, to speak to the previous 14A 1, 2, or 3, and is it appropriate to ask a question now or wait until such time as the introduction of all the bylaws are complete? I just simply have a question.
Dealt with.
Question, Your Worship, on the sign.
Oh, on the sign.
Oh, on the 14A 1, 2, 3, I had a question, but
that would be up to the chair, Your Worship.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Given then that we have approved or denied 1, 2, and or 3, or however,
approved, yeah,
would suggest to me then that we have a sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120.
Yes, at the reading.
And where will I find that sign amendment bylaw 2011 number 7120? Where will I find that, please?
Page 169.
Your Worship, it's on page 169 of tonight's agenda.
169?
And it would be contained within the city's sign bylaw, which is also on the website.
Yeah, page 169.
So this is what will, when a business comes in and asks to read what the conditions are, this is what they receive?
Your Worship, and I apologize for the confusion, and I think even my staff and I are disagreeing, but on page 65 and 66, and this comes back to Councillor Holdham's question, we had provided what we would have as the guidelines for the developers to review when they come in, which is page 65 and 66. I took your rejecting recommendation 3 as discarding those guidelines. So all that stays in is the amendments that you just made in bylaw 7120, which is, we can read that out if you prefer.
That's fine. I just wanted some temporary.
So the effect of that is that when someone makes an application now for a development variance permit, we would just bring forward their request to council, and you could adjudicate what they're proposing, where they're proposing it, how big it is.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Harrison, go ahead.
Just for clarification, council has given that bylaw third reading, so it would still need to come back for adoption.
Yes. Okay. Now, first reading on the financial plan.
Okay, so I think we're on, what, 14B 1, 2, 3 now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We read out number 1. It has been seconded, but there has been no vote on it.
Okay, so on 14B 1, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry, Councillor Besserick, opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
I move that financial plan bylaw 2011 number 7121 pass second reading.
Second.
Okay, moving second. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Besserick, Councillor Sherry, opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
I move that financial plan bylaw 2011 number 7121 pass third reading.
Moved and seconded. No questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry, Councillor Besserick, opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. Introduction of development bylaws. We'll move down to council appointments. Number 17A, appointments to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability. Recommendation that Council 1 ratify the appointments of Mr. James Redford and Mr. Michael Shelnick as community at large representatives to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability, and 2, confirm the appointment of Ms. Michelle Patterson as the Vancouver Island University representative to the Advisory Committee on the Environmental Sustainability.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll move down to other business. Councillor Sherry, did you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under the receipt of information only items, there was 4 items listed there. And I erred in asking staff to identify, I believe it's
12D,
as it relates to the Quarterway Bridge, Bowen Road deal, if they would mind specifying what that's all about, please.
Your Worship, this is a report on the actions taken by Council at the in-camera meeting this morning, and it has to do with the award of tender for the Quarterway Bridge replacement project and the related Bowen Road widening. And Council made the determination that it would award the contract to the low compliant bidder, being Hazelwood Construction Services, for the bid of $7,987,089.50, HST included.
With the receipt of that information.
Is there a seconder? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're moving down to, the delegates have been pulled from Mr. Pierce, and question period agenda items only. Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Taylor, before you start, there's the city manager. Was there another comment you wanted to make on here, or is it just a carryover on my dial here? Okay, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Fred Taylor of 204 Emery Way. Could council advise me as to when and if it was in place a covenant or building scheme or agreement that the north side of Northfield Road required a residence with the development of industry on the lot that faced along Northfield on the north side? Because even if I recall that, and if you go there, you'll see many houses with buildings and shops and everything in the back. And when has that been taken away?
We can get the specifics for Mr. Chair, but it was part of bylaw 2370, the zoning bylaw, and it was amended at either at the end of that life or at the beginning of bylaw 4000. But he's correct. There was a time, in my career anyways, when there was a requirement for a house at the front.
My next question, Mr. Chairman, was directed through you to Councillor Hold'em, and it's starting to get history, but I'm wondering if you could recall your motion and unanimous support of placing sidewalks in the city as close as possible to the property line.
Oh, yes.
Which has not been followed to date, which would solve the problem of trucks putting snow on a sidewalk that's at the traveled portion.
It was an attempt to have a boulevard, I know, and we didn't. It's been the fate of several of my motions, actually.
Well, it was unanimously carried.
Down in flames.
I know, yeah.
But it seems it's not followed. And I would like to know the history, if there is any, of the use of a white line to designate a sidewalk on a road versus, say, a raised sidewalk at the traveled portion, keeping in mind that the sidewalks on Bone Road, say, opposite my house where I live or anywhere, are clear all the time because there's only a white line. Is there a tremendous danger to pedestrians when there's only a white line, which is illegal for traffic to cross?
Your Worship, I know that I came to the 1987. One of the big complaints in a lot of areas of the city were those crazy sidewalks that are really just white lines on major roads, and what a safety hazard that constituted. And ever since that day, I think Council has been working diligently to budget every year for money to actually build proper raised sidewalks, and that's been a policy of Council and followed through in practice for the 23 years I've been here. So we've been actively building raised sidewalks all that time.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, you can't make everybody happy, and I raise question as to looking at how you look to people and the cost-saving measures of being able to clear it in one pass with the road and able for pedestrians to use. You can't make everybody happy, but it sure makes more sense that you can leave a sidewalk clear. If you expect people to clear a sidewalk, how many times are you going to come back and plow the snow from the road back onto the sidewalk?
Yes.
Same as a driveway entrance.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
You can wait an hour and the truck will show up again and move it over another couple of feet. I don't understand.
Your white line for sidewalks can go back to January 1st, 1975?
I don't know.
Amalgamation.
Could be. Councillor Kipp.
Through the staff, if we don't clear the snow off of our sidewalk, which I don't have in front of my place, paid taxes for 20 years, no sidewalk, so I don't have to clear it, and someone fell down, and we had a bylaw, could someone actually sue the homeowner? Because that's not my property.